In the heart of Atchison in Kansas sits a modest, nondescript brick house on 508 and 2nd Street. It's the kind of place you'd pass without a second glance. But behind its unassuming facade lies a legacy soaked in whispers, shadows, and screams. The story of this house has been passed around town for decades, scaring locals and visitors alike. So let's delve into the spine-chilling tale of the Sallie House. To understand the horror that allegedly transpired within those four walls, we must first turn back the clock to the early 1900s. Back then, the house was owned by a well-respected doctor in town. He lived there with his wife, Helen, and their two children. Life was peaceful until one day their servant brought her young daughter, Sallie, to the house. The little girl, barely 7 years old, was suffering from terrible stomach pains. It was clear she needed medical attention, and so the doctor, being a man of science and the house's resident physician, decided to operate, but something went terribly wrong. It seems the doctor, in a desperate attempt to save the child's life, didn't wait for the anesthesia to take full effect. As a result, when he began the operation, Sallie awoke in the middle of the procedure. The unimaginable happened right there in that room. Sallie screamed in terror and pain, not knowing why she was wide awake as the doctor cut open her abdomen. Her screams echoed through the house, a chilling testament to the horror unfolding within those four walls. It was a traumatic experience, and despite everyone's best efforts, Sallie didn't make it. She died on the operating table, her tiny body racked with pain and fear, her life brutally cut short. But some say her soul wasn't so quick to leave this world. Ever since that fateful day, the house on 508 and 2nd Street has been known as the Sallie House, and the story goes that the spirit of the little girl who died so tragically on the operating table still resides there, forever reliving her final moments of pain and terror. For over a century, people have shared stories about this house, each one adding another layer to the mystery and horror. So what actually happened to Sallie? Well, that depends on who you ask. There are two versions of the story, each more terrifying than the last. The first tells of a simple tragic accident, a doctor's error and oversight that cost a young girl her life. But as time went on, whispers began to circulate, tales of the little girl's spirit haunting the halls of the house where she died. If this version is true, then perhaps Sallie is not malevolent, but simply a lost soul seeking peace. Or maybe she's trapped, condemned to relive her final moments over and over again. Now let's explore the second version, the one that turned Sallie's story from tragedy to terror. Some believe that Sallie was not just a victim of circumstance, but of foul play. They say the doctor intentionally left her awake during the operation, a sinister act motivated by nothing less than pure evil. If this chilling tale is true, then Sallie's spirit is not that of a lost child, but of a murdered girl, her soul corrupted and turned to ash, forever seeking revenge on those who wronged her. If you think the mere suggestion of such a dark secret buried within the walls of this house is enough to send shivers down your spine, imagine the feeling of standing there yourself, the floorboards creaking beneath your feet, the air thick with the weight of untold horrors. Every room you enter, every shadow you pass, seems to whisper tales of a tragedy that not even death could put an end to. Fast forward to 1993, a new family moves into the house, unaware of the darkness that awaits them. They were an ordinary couple, Tony and Deborah Pickman, looking for a fresh start in a new home. Little did they know that this house had a history of holding on to its former residents, both living and dead. Almost immediately upon moving in, strange things began to happen. Unexplainable events that defied logic and reason and pointed to a dark presence lurking in the shadows. At first, these occurrences were subtle, almost imperceptible. Then lights flickered, strange sounds echoed from the attic, and a bone-chilling cold swept through the rooms as if an icy wind had swept through the halls. Then there were the scratches. Tony would wake up in the middle of the night only to find 3 long, deep scratches marring his chest. Startled and confused, he'd look around the room, half expecting to see a wild animal slinking out of the corner, but there was nothing. Just the faint outline of 3 lines on his skin where claws or nails had dug into him. His wife dismissed it at first, putting it down to some nocturnal quirk of theirs. But as the days turned into weeks and the scratches kept appearing, the reality of their situation became undeniable. They were not alone in that house. And as time went on, the manifestations grew stronger, more terrifying. Toys moved on their own books, flew off shelves, and once when Tony was changing a diaper in the middle of the night, he swears he heard the sound of a woman screaming a primal blood-curdling scream that seemed to come from the very bowels of the earth. Then there was the apparition, the ghostly figure that haunted Tony's dreams. He would see her standing at the foot of the bed, her face pale and drawn, her eyes hollow and black, like bottomless pits of despair. When he tried to reach out to her, to comfort her, his hand would go straight through her, as if she were made of mist or smoke. She'd turn slowly to face him, and he'd see her mouth move, but no sound came out. Then she'd evaporate into thin air, leaving him alone in the darkness with his fear and questions. As the haunting intensified, so did the atmosphere of dread and suspicion within the house. Was it the spirit of the little girl who died so tragically on the operating table? Or was there something more sinister at play? To find out, they reached out to paranormal investigators, hoping they could shed some light on the darkness enveloping their lives. Armed with cameras, EMF readers, and audio recorders, the investigators combed through the house, documenting every strange occurrence, every flicker of light, every cold spot. They captured strange voices on tape and caught shadow figures in photographs. Their findings suggested a heavy, malevolent presence lurking in the house, a presence that seemed to revel in the fear and uncertainty it created. Yet, even with all the evidence mounting around them, the true nature of the haunting remained elusive. The investigators couldn't tell if they were dealing with a lost, tormented soul or something more wicked, something that thrived on causing pain and suffering. The question lingered in the air, unspoken but ever-present. Was Sally just a ghost, or was she something far more sinister, something evil that had taken root in that house and refused to leave? As the weeks turned into months, the hauntings continued unabated, growing more violent, more terrifying. The couple felt trapped in their own home, prisoners in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Finally, they made the heartbreaking decision to leave, to abandon their home and seek refuge elsewhere, away from the darkness that had seeped into their lives. But as they packed their belongings and prepared to start a new life elsewhere, they knew they were leaving one thing behind. The haunting, the terror, the unanswered questions. The story of the Sallies House didn't end with the Pickmans' departure. It continues to this day, drawing in paranormal investigators, thrill seekers and skeptics alike, all eager to experience for themselves the horrors that await within those 4 walls. For those who dare to venture inside, the experience is often overwhelming, terrifying. They report being touched, scratched, and suddenly overcome with nausea or dread. Electronics fail, cameras break, and strange voices whisper in the darkness. Some claim to have seen the ghost of a little girl standing at the end of the hallway, her face pale and drawn, her eyes black and soulless. And then there's the smell, the lingering aroma of burning candles, even though none are lit, a chilling reminder that the spirits that linger here refuse to be ignored. As you stand in that house, surrounded by the ghosts of its past, you can't help but wonder, is this just a spooky tale, a local legend meant to scare and entertain? Or is there something more, something deeply disturbing lurking beneath the surface? Are the scratching sounds and flickering lights really just tricks of the mind, or are they signs of a troubled spirit trying to communicate? Can you feel the presence that lingers in the corners of your vision, just beyond your perception? And have you ever brushed against a cold spot, a sudden chill that sends shivers down your spine, making you question the very nature of reality? As you step further into the depths of this house, you can't help but feel a sense of foreboding creep up on you. The air grows heavy, the silence deafening. You're not alone, and whatever is watching you remains hidden, observing your every move, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. The question is, are you ready for what you might find? When the sun sets over the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the lawn, the house comes alive with a different kind of energy. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of laughter and sorrow, joy and despair. It's as if the very walls of the house are breathing, inhaling the darkness and exhaling secrets. And then there's the little girl in the Victorian nightgown, her hair long and flowing, her eyes vacant and lifeless. She appears at the edge of your vision, just out of focus, a fleeting glimpse of a soul trapped in time. The scariest part, she doesn't seem to be alone. You can feel their eyes on you, judging you, tormenting you, wanting you to know that they're there, watching, waiting. And if you listen closely, you might hear their whispers carried on the wind, weaving their tale of woe and despair. Now, it's your turn. Would you dare to spend a night in the Sallie House? Or does the thought of facing such terror turn your blood cold? Share your thoughts below and join the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to show your support. Together, let's keep the haunting stories alive.